Hey folks, happy Friday and welcome to a brand new, it's not season, but a brand new era of Plan A Conversations. Listen, we've been off for the last 2 weeks because we needed to recharge our batteries and have a bit of a summer hiatus as so many other podcasts and radio teams have done. So it is so good to be back with you. I cannot tell you how much I've missed your DMs, your questions, your listener notes from all the different interviews that we've had throughout season 8 of our podcast. But guess what? We are back. We are back. And again, I'm so excited to bring to you some of the most incredible and intelligent and brilliant voices of our time. People who are doing some fascinating things that I believe need to have a platform to share a little bit more robustly with us all how we can live more purposefully in our lives. And so for today, and I mention this always, I am really blessed with meeting some of the most fascinating, I feel, people around the globe. I was having drinks with one of my friends as a catch up, and he was sharing with me that he was about to do a panel, but he also said that there was some ambivalence about doing this panel. And I'm like, okay, what is the ambivalence for? And so I was wondering a little bit about some of the backstory, and he's from India, and he started to share a little bit about some of the ambivalence with the LGBTQ community, how they're received over there, and the history and so forth. I kid you not, friends. Being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I had no idea of the story. But one thing that he did say to me as he was pondering if he was going to do the panel or not, that there was one young man who was just very, very impressive. Someone who really inspired him. Someone who he thought was a path a finder, a path maker, and that person is sitting in front of you right now. And so without further ado, I want to welcome Deevakar Rogith to the show. Welcome.
Hi, Clay. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it is awesome to make your acquaintance and literally friends who are listening to the podcast. As soon as we get into the show, you'll know a little bit more of why I wanted to talk with him. And so, Deevakar, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Now, one of the things that I think is just like the pivotal reason why I wanted to speak with you is the last line in your bio. And for our video and audio community, be sure to check it out in our show notes. He says, for over 15 years, I have been managing one of the largest medical alumni network in India, Jipmernet, to connect, engage, and inspire medical students. And that is the reason why I wanted to speak with you today. But before we get into all that work that you're doing, tell our audience what it is that you do in the world and what inspires you to begin your career.
So it's filled with all sorts of fights, quarrels, and all sorts of struggles to reach to my career point.
Of
And
course.
as well, coming from LGBT background, it's always difficult to find out what is it exactly that the world expects of you, and you're always in
Mm.
struggle trying to fit it. So in India, if you're smart, you're either put into two roles: either you get into the medicine or into the engineering, and you are seen as somewhat deviant if you do anything else other than either medicine or engineering. So that is one of the perils of having to score more or being smart. So your parents and
Mm.
everybody forces you into either you pick this or that, and the choices
Hmm.
are either medicine or engineering. And I always wanted to do something different, but I didn't have any options or avenue to pursue. And then I went ahead and got into my med school in India. And again, I was still worried about what is it that I'm going to do, because I don't want to be into the role of just being a physician and doing all the regular things. So I've been always struggling to see what do I want. As it all, it was both exploration in personal as well as in professional life, figuring out what do I want. Why do people tell me you have to do this, you have to do that? And in both sides, I was trying to figure out what is it that gives me the satisfaction. Rather than happiness, it was a satisfaction. And during that search is where I explored different things. Say in my work, I started looking into computers because I never had access to a computer till then. So it was in
Oh.
2005 when I got my first computer. Then I decided to break it open and see what is inside
In India, you're
in India.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started with that, and then I thought, well, let me start a nice website to show what we are doing in our school or in a med school. So we had a nice batch website, And that's when I had no idea what was happening in rest of the world. As I told, we didn't have that much of internet or other connectivity or other exposure. So it was more of you go to college, you read your textbooks, you write your exams, and then you follow your path to becoming a doctor. But that didn't give me the satisfaction that I was looking for. So I was always exploring. So I signed up for some open universities, this, that, but still it was not satisfying. So initially I came across a computer. So I started learning things because I didn't do a computer course. So I started learning things on my own, going into the internet, finding different things. And again, without broadband, I had to sit on the internet at around 11 p.m. That's when you get free internet.
Oh, wow.
From 11
Okay.
p.m. to 4 a.m. only. After that, you'll be charged because it's a dial up. So I will be holding up the phone lines. I don't know if you heard the modem sounds in those.
Oh, yeah.
So through that, I started with my website. And without knowing what's happening in the world, I I was just updating what's happening in the class, conducting some quizzes, putting up some magazine articles of what students think about what we are doing. So I've been always trying to ask people to express. So I've been managing a small class magazine. It went only for 4 months or so, but still it was effort. But someone discovered my website in the US, and it was actually a discovery because of a spelling mistake that I made. And
Really?
it's a typo. As it all, I type fast. I'm a hyperactive person. I
Yeah.
do everything. So I typed it in a way that it sounded different. The obstetrics and gynecology, because the British spelling has a e in it. So
Right.
if you misplace it, pronounced ecology. So people are making fun, and then someone said, "Hey man, your website is being discussed by somebody in the alumni network in the US." So that's when I
Hmm.
first got to know about, oh, there is a network of people from my med school who are across different parts of the world discussing issues. So I just started and I got involved in that. And since then, I've been trying to improve on the network because it's not just about nostalgia or connecting with your peers and seniors. I thought I could tap into their expertise because they have done lots of interesting things. And I found the diversity in the alumni also. People have been doing different things which we have never heard of. Because in India, if you're a physician, the only thing that you can do is either do a private practice or be an hospitalist. But in the alumni network, I came across people who are doing different things. Though they have graduated, they've found their own pathways, like being a businessman, being a lawyer, some are even politicians. And it gave me an inspiration. Oh, you can do anything that you want. And
That's
the
right.
only the thing is, you just have to find the right path and right person. So then, since then, I've been engaging with the alumni network, and I am very grateful to meet some of my mentors there, at least informal mentors, and they helped me to learn about various things. And I slowly started expanding my, to say, comfort level of okay, I can explore this in addition to doing medicine, and then I figured out my current passion in using technology in medicine,
Hmm.
and
And
that.
just before you keep going on, just so our audience understands, what exactly do you do at the intersection of medicine and technology?
I develop apps for both patients and physicians where I work on basically behavioral change because your technology can help you make a habit or make a behavior that would improve your health. So I work on developing apps. I've published some of the apps, and I also work on the interfaces for the physicians because I can give them context to make better decisions. I can help them verify their decisions so that their treatment doesn't harm the patients, and I work on integrating both the patient and the physician side using technology. So I work with people who are developing machine learning AI, and my role is actually trying to take it to the world. So from the research tables to the actual world and implementation. So I enjoy implementing projects in various hospitals in and around here in Texas areas, and I work with multiple hospitals and trying to help them adapt some of the methods or modules or some of the research findings from other researchers. So mine is mostly collaborative, trying to connect what is done in the research world, bringing into practice. Because the last mile of any research project is always difficult. I can have a great application and it runs in my computer, but if I take it to the world, there are lots of problems because there is billing issues, pricing issues, people don't like it, or people are afraid of it, or they expect too much of it. So I'm trying to bridge that gap and slowly introduce technology into various domains. So my role is basically connecting people with technology. So I specialize in human factors, clinical decision making, trying to understand why you behave in a particular way, And again, all this have been learned from my personal experience, because you're always on the lookout for what others are thinking about me and what signals do I send out, and
Yeah.
how do I manage what this person expects out of me. And the same thing I've been able to put into my work, where I'm now thinking, say, if you are diabetic, how do I make sure you are able to listen to my instructions or advice on how to improve your diabetes? Or if you have questions, how do I know what is the actual intent of your question so that I can address it accordingly? So the
Hmm.
last mile, the bridging the technology to the actual clients or the people, is my area
Hmm.
of specialization. And that again comes with finding out why you behave this way you do, and what do you expect from when I say use this app or use this device or use this technology. So I work with patients trying to help them use their blood pressure cuffs at home, or send their blood pressure data to the physician, or with the physicians, how do I give them an interface so that they get a complete picture of what's going on, not just your clinical picture, say your social picture. And for the
Nice.
hospitals, running some machine learning algorithms to say how can I reduce your workload using those final algorithms that you can implement. Yeah.
Wow. And I bet that closes the gap between just this small picture that, people have of their medical condition versus the overview that a lot of us wish that we probably have with our medical practitioners.
Yeah. Basically, it's about how you manage your own health. So my philosophy is everybody is working to improve their own health.
Hmm.
So when you are ill, the first thing you do is you first check what is happening with me. You may ask your close friends, hey, I'm feeling this way, I'm not well. Or you may check your internet to see what's going on.
Right.
Only if none of this work, you go to a doctor. And then when you go to a doctor or a practitioner, you are entrusting him to guide you into what you should be doing. Instead of
Yes.
letting the doctor do everything, you are just going there, say, I have this problem, can you tell me what you want me to do? And that is what I'm trying to bring in. About a physician's role is to teach the patient on what is your current situation and what all things that you can do to improve your situation. And my recommendation is you need to take this medication or you need to do this surgery. What do you think? Which one do you want? And that is usually missing, especially from trainees, say in countries like India or others, where it is more paternalistic. Like, you go to a doctor believing he will do everything, he's the god and he's going to cure you.
Right.
I'm trying to change that so that the attitude also differs, so that you can start asking questions, you can start exploring, and you can be control of your own health. And that's where I come in, say, use this app that will help you to better explain to your patients, or use this to better engage
Mm.
with your physicians, because you want the physician to teach you how is your condition, and then these are the options that I'm recommending based on my expertise and my training and my experience. And I would strongly suggest use these, but these are all other options. What do you think, or which one do you want? And that is the ideal workflow that should happen. And
Yeah.
that's been my motivation of why I'm doing this field also, so that I can use technology to bridge that gap.
Yeah, and it puts the power back in the patient's hand and doesn't make them feel that they're a victim waiting for the practitioner to give them their only options.
Yes. And also for physician, also the attitude changes so that they can be more engaging instead of trying
Yeah.
to, I need to solve this. Instead, they have to go
Hmm.
to, I need to help the patient. And that's where the word doctor comes. The doctor is a teacher. So
Hmm.
the teaching part is, how do I teach the patient to understand his condition? And how do I teach him these are the options? And how do I teach him to make a best choice given the treatment options?
Hmm.
And that is nowadays being lost in the modern times, and people are getting into a routine of, not well, I go to the doctor, let him do everything.
Yes. I have a really good friend, Dr. Arti Slorio. She was on the podcast in season one and she does preventative medicine. And the same things that you're talking about is what she's been trying to address in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And one thing that you said to me that I thought was really very telling in terms of you finding yourself at this particular space is not just fitting into the conditions of what your immediate environment told you to do, particularly medicine in this way or engineering that way. You clearly did medicine, but you're not doing it in the traditional way. What was it that was the driving force for you to decide to take medicine in a brand new way that actually spoke to you?
It was the monotony and the expectations. that you only
Hmm.
just read, you see the patients, you write your exams, and then you
Hmm.
continue seeing the patients.
Hmm.
And all you have to do is keep cramming and reading for more and more knowledge.
Right.
And that becomes very, very monotonous.
Hmm.
And it's actually determination also, because you tend to be more narrow minded and you are more focused in one specialization, and you
Hmm.
tend to miss out on some of the other characteristics of healthcare or holistic approaches,
Hmm.
and that results in so many errors or so many problems. And also talking with my other friends and peers, they also felt the same thing, but they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And there were no options in India,
Right.
because there are not much of facilities or not much of exploration, and you
Hmm.
have been trained for so many years and you've been prepared to just read, write, and then move on to the next
Hmm.
exams.
Yeah, and environmental factors are a big status or status for so many different people that tells them this is where you could only focus. And so then for you, while you were in India, the monotony I understand, but was there anything else that was the driving aha moment for you to pursue something different?
uh, it was just knowing that this existed in the world. That's the thing,
So the
without
knowledge.
information, once I found, oh, there is something in the US that people are doing with computers.
Okay.
And that's when, oh, now I can do both. I don't have to be an engineer, I don't have to be just a physician, I can be both. So I'm now
Yeah.
enjoying both.
And so when did you come to the States and what was your experience like when you first came?
Oh, I came in 2011, so it's almost 10, it's exactly 10 years.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I came here, it was very, very different, because I was again scared and alone in a big world without knowing what is expected here and what I have to be doing. So it took
Mm.
some while. It took almost 6 months or so before I got hold of, okay, this is what happens in the US and this is how I should be uh, behaving, or let's say living.
Mm. Was your family supportive of your move?
It was again, they all want everybody to be nearby, close by. So again, I
Mhm.
was only an aberration to come here, because I wanted to do all these things and not just do one thing. And it was difficult for my parents to others to let go and
Yeah.
come here, because they find, oh, why are you going and struggling and doing all these things? Why don't you just be here, settle down, and you will be satisfied? I said, no, that is not what I want, because
Yeah.
coming here and establishing is another struggle, because you're starting from scratch again. You're starting
Hmm.
with, okay, you come here, you don't have your classmates, no friends, no relatives, so you have to build your social network, you have to build your professional network, and you have to build your financial stability. So without any support, you have to do all those things from scratch. And that's also another reason why I came, because I need to start on my own, I need to do things on my own.
And that's a big reason why a lot of people listen to this podcast is more motivation to not only start over, but to follow their plan A, is what I call it, to follow their passion, to follow their purpose in life. What would you say to somebody who is listening to this podcast or watching it, who feel that they're stuck in life and they feel there's no options because what they used to do in life has kept them safe? It has supported their financial stability, and it is the reason why they feel they have a monochrome of success now.
So it's very difficult to say everybody can follow this to move or change careers.
Right.
And I'm also talking this from experience of, say, many of my students have also been switching careers into coming from different fields. I even had one who was a carpenter or a plumber who moved on into doing technology or computer science, and everybody's switching because computer science is becoming more mainstream.
Right.
So and also from my experience in dealing with patients, and also my own thing, the only thing is you need to know when to say I don't care.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just have to say I don't care what happens, I don't care what others are going
Hmm.
to say, I'm going to take this risk. And usually people think of what is my backup plan, what happens, but I'm
Yep.
of the mindset that whatever happens, I will figure it out once it happens. Because if I keep looking for a backup plan, I'll be always looking for a backup plan, because there is always backup for a backup, backup for a backup, and it goes on an infinite loop. So that was one thing I've been following, because I just didn't care about backups. I said, if it happens, I will figure it out. If everything collapses, I can rebuild. We will see what happens at that time. And sometimes people have, oh, I have my family to take care, my parents, this, that. I'm like, everybody has their own plans, and they should be prepared for everything. If it happens, it happens. And giving that control makes a difference, or giving up the
Hmm.
control makes a difference. And if you try to control everything, you would be still controlling, trying to figure out, okay, I need to balance this, that, everything. And it sometimes works for people who have other support, like their friends, family, money.
Right.
If all were available, people are able to do that, and they've succeeded that way, balancing everything. But if you don't have those things, you have to take a chance. And sometimes it's okay to fail. Like I have gone through many things. Even in the US, I was like, okay, tomorrow I may be deported. Or I may have to do this. What do I do? So there are so many things that happen because some of the documents didn't come on time. There was a delay in the postal. There's so many such stories have happened.
Yeah. And so when that does happen or it did happen to you, what was your process to overcome those scenarios?
I just looked at, okay, what are my options now? Then I started planning from that point. and
Hmm.
and then I started contacting people. What can I do next? What can I do? Then I said, okay, if it has to happen, I have to go back and then come back again, or I have to reapply or do some other things. I didn't plan anytime. I never planned anything before that. So an example would be like, I need to have my work permit to start my work. I was graduated, but this was during the December holidays, so it didn't. It was approved. I can see my online status. I have my email saying it is approved, but without the physical card, they won't let me into workplace. And the physical card has to arrive by mail, and this was during December holidays. And I've been tracking the mail. It says it is in the local post office, but it never arrived. And then I went to the local post office. They said, we don't find your mail. I showed them the tracking. It says it's here. Then they had to search, and it came only after 2 weeks. Then they figured out where it was located. So things happen. Things may get misplaced, things may be lost. And those 2 weeks I was without pay. I was put on a hold because you have a buffer period of 30 days before you can go out of the country. But I had faith. Okay, I know that it is here, it has arrived, it is approved, and people are going to listen. And that is one thing that US gave me, like people are always reasonable. They knew that if something happens, they are able to adjust, accommodate, or they give you options, which I don't get it in India or other places. I go tell the post op master. He said, okay, let me look at it. I'm sorry this happened, let me figure it out. I tell my university. They said, it's okay, we will figure it out, we will find out. But till then we had to follow the rules. So they I was out of pay, but I had my friends or others to support. And since it was December time, there was not much of bills or others to pay. I had my other credit cards to support, but it was tough. But I sought out people, and they were understanding. And then when it came, I again got back on the payroll and got back on the position, because sometimes things happen out of your control. So all you have to do is figure out what happens and then be prepared. Even if the worst happens, what's there? It's
Yeah, to be agile and then resourceful is what I'm hearing you say. And so, at this particular point in time, as you're navigating the states, what was your biggest learning curve between India and the U.S.?
biggest learning curve is talking to people.
Okay, how so?
And when I first came here, I was walking on the somebody said, "Hi, hello, or good morning," and I got scared. Who is this stranger who is talking to me? Because you don't no strangers will talk to you when you walk on the street. He was just mowing the lawn, and he saw me walking by and then say, "Hi, howdy, how are you? Good morning." And I got scared. Oh my God, what should I do now? So first thing is I called one of my friends or my batchmates in the US. I said, man, this person said, what should I respond or how should I behave? He said, that happens when you walk. When people they say hello, you just respond back. Nothing is expected out of it. And the same way in my work or the class also, I didn't know how to ask questions or clarifications, because you're always told, you listen what you have been told and you don't ask back questions. But here you have the full freedom. So that was one of the initial inertia I had. Then once I started asking questions and figuring out, I knew that, oh, I had all the freedom to do anything I want, and I enjoyed it the most. So
Was that a shock to you having that kind of freedom at all?
no, actually, it was liberating. I felt,
Liberating,
oh, I'm finally here where I can do anything I want, and all I have to be is truthful and reasonable.
Yeah,
And actually, I've learned that you can ask anything you want. The worst thing they can say is, no, sorry, I can't give you that.
yeah.
So with that, I've been asking anything I thought would help me, and I've got many no's, but at least you are able to ask. And that was one thing I've learned, and that actually helped me to reach to the point where I am. Otherwise, I would have been just, okay, this is what happened. I don't know what to do next. The main learning curve was having the courage to ask anything to anybody.
Hmm.
Like,
And speaking of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say, it's like even asking for if a hard deadline was there and I missed it, I can still ask, can you extend it? And I didn't know that. I thought
Hmm.
once you miss the deadline, you're screwed or you're done.
Yeah.
But people were always flexible, and all you have to do is ask.
And that's a really great point, especially for our audience here, people who are feeling that they have no options beyond what is presented to them. You literally just, obliterated that myth. Help is there if we just seek it out and ask. So many of us do not ask for what we want, what we need, and what we deserve. Going back to something that you just recently said about having that courage and being able to maintain that for you, going circling to our original conversation about the panel that you put together for the LGBTQ plus community in India in your med school there. And the extension with people here in the United States. Please, please, please tell our audience what was the impetus for getting that started and some of the factors and how you had to be courageous in creating this.
Yeah. So, as I told, people are not open in India about all the sexuality or other gender issues. So, people
Hmm.
have been always living under a big cloud. And during my time in India, I had, say, all these profiles and other social networks. I've been bold enough to have my picture and my name, so I didn't hide. So that actually had many people who have been in those, say, apps for the LGBT. They were able to identify me and reach out.
In
So
India,
in
when
India,
you were there.
when you were,
Wow. Hmm.
and I said, I don't care, whatever happens, happens. So and that actually brought both dangerous people also, but I found many of my med school students and others who recognized me from my name and picture contacted. I said, hi, I know you, but they were not willing to tell their identity, but it was okay. And through that, I've been actually talking with people, and they've been able to talk to me about their issues and other things. And that's been going on. And we've been always looking for, we need to somehow form a group, a support group, or a group to bring about change. And that was again difficult because they didn't want to be revealed, or they didn't want others to be known that they are associated even with such an institution or even with me.
Yeah,
uh,
and before you go on, because if I'm not correct, to be gay was illegal in
so
India.
it is illegal.
Now it still is.
It is still illegal by the books. And
Okay.
until the law changes, it is still illegal. But now
Hmm.
they don't prosecute because the court said you should don't have to prosecute, but by the books, it is still illegal.
Hmm. So then, what happens to someone if you say by the books it's still illegal, but you don't have to prosecute? What then happens to someone who is out of the
No, nothing
closet?
happens. So it's
Nothing.
usually nobody does anything because that has been never used unless somebody wants to harass you.
Got it. Okay.
And that was a recent court ruling. Also, some of the, say, some people filed a complaint, and using that, the police harassed them using this law. Then they were again reprimanded by the court, saying you should have not done those things.
Hmm.
And it's up to the government to remove it from the books, but it's still from the British rule from the 1800s. The rule has been still
Right.
there, which was also in the US also, but very recently only
Yeah.
they all went out in the 1990s actually.
Right, right. No, that's right. And so then for you growing up, had you always known that you were gay if you choose that affiliation, that name?
And I'd never affiliated to the word gay itself, so I'm more
Okay.
like into queer. So I was like, oh, I like girls, I like the guys, and I was
Oh.
confused. And I had crushes on both sides, and it was crushing me also. So I went on
Mm.
more about reading about it and studying about it, and I've learned a lot from reading and studying.
Yes.
And I only have to rely on some textbooks and books, and I have to search for particular keywords to learn more about it, and that's how I improved on my knowledge. But it was still very difficult
Of
because which
course.
side to fit in, and that's why I now decided I'd never had any of those labels. I've called myself queer, and I like the word
Cure.
because it fits every spectrum.
I love that. And it's you say cure, is that it?
Yeah, I don't know how am I pronouncing it. Like
Queer. Queer.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I have trouble pronouncing words.
No, 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 no. This is a great learning curve even for me to understand. Yeah. So queer, and had you was your family okay with that when you were younger? Did they understand? Did you
No, they still
conversate?
don't understand. They still have problems, but it's a long educational process. I keep telling, educating mom, educating my dad, And even now I keep talking to them, telling them this is what happens, this is how human beings evolved, this are the scientific things. But they keep saying no, we are here, it's a social norm, and you need to follow through our social norms and all those things. And it's still a
Right.
struggle. And
Yeah.
even every day, every week, we call, we fight on this, we talk on this. But at least I'm happy that my parents are putting in the effort to understand, to learn, because it's
Mm.
difficult for them because they've been brought up in that world, and they're
Yeah.
still facing the same social stigmas there, because they have to still go through all the problems that happens if somebody knows their son is like this or their family member is like this. And
Problems
I'm
such as,
uh, uh,
when you say problems, what is that for us
you'll
over
be
here? What is?
laughed at, you'll be laughed at. Like, people will talk behind you, and somehow somebody will say, you didn't bring up your kid very well, you didn't do your duty, because of you only he's like this. Those sort of blame, so they will blame the parents. And what did you do, and why did you do like this, and why didn't you catch it early, why didn't you take him to a doctor? They do all sort of things. And those sort of shaming is always difficult for them. And that's why I'm still educating and still trying to help them, but it's still a process. And they're still not accepted, and they're still like, okay, you will change, something will change. Or at least you will find a girl and then you'll be settled down. And I said, I'm open to it, I'm meeting everybody, and whoever I like, all I'm looking for is my compatibility with them. And I'm not going to do a business deal of getting into a marriage because it fits with all the parameters or the criteria. And yeah, it's still a struggle, and it is
Right.
still a problem.
And for you personally, knowing that there was maybe a disappointment potentially with your family, how did you deal with that emotionally?
As I told, depression is one of the side effects of all of these things. So I was depressed. I was not happy. I was worried about how am I going to do this, and that's why I decided to take things one by one. So I was not into, say, actively dating anybody for a very long time, because I was focusing on my parents. I said, let me do this. Let me deal with this first. And it took, say, around 5 years, I would say, of continuously making sure they understand, they know all the things, they are not it's difficult to disengage them from their norms and beliefs, but at least I was educating them. And it's still going on. So it's basically choosing to focus, prioritize, because it was becoming too much. As I told, you're in a new country, you're trying to do this, that, and then your personal life and your parents is also a struggle. So I was going through a phase of depression, and fortunately, since as I told, I was trained physician. I was in psychiatry for a year as a trainee. So I knew what all things are happening, how do I manage it. So I rely on my friends. So I told my friends, call me and check me on this. Make me do this, make me do my exercise or go on a walk, and keep a track on me. So I told them to keep a track on, and they were happy to do that. And I was again telling them I am depressed. So it's about accepting I am depressed. I am not able to sleep. I am not taking care of myself. Help me with at least these things. And each one had different roles, and they helped me through it. I'm very, very grateful for my friends actually who have seen me through this process, but it was tough. And depression is always going to be a definite side effect when you're dealing with these things. And identifying that, seeking help, and having a support network is also another motivation why I want to do this for my other peers in India. Because I was fortunate to have a very close network of friends who understood, who were able to be there to help, and I knew how to deal with this. So I told them, okay, you have to do these therapies for me. You need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
tell me how to do my exercise. You need to check on me. You need to track me. And those are the things I'm able to do. So I thought I will translate this to a separate process or a group that would help the other students in India. And accepting that depression is going to happen and identifying it and seeking support is one of the key points how I'm managing all these things. And it will take years. It took me, as it I wasted almost 10 years, not wasted, I struggled through 10 years
Okay.
to coming to this stage, processing the depression, because you're depressed because you had to deal with work, deal with academics, you have your PhD defense coming, you have this happening, and your visa issues happening, financial issues happening. All of this adds lots of stress. And my depression came in the form of difficulty in sleeping and in appetite. And even with that, I was still able to work. But that was one of my, I would say, gift, that I was still able to be productive and able to do things, but I feel like, oh, I was not as productive as I wanted to be.
Right.
And
And so at what point for you did you know that you were at peace and maybe go ahead.
that actually came around a couple of years ago when I finally decided none of the past actually defines what you are.
Did something happen in particular or
Particular is just knowing what happened. I didn't know what was happening to me.
right.
I didn't know what was going on. Why am I struggling, or why am I having all these conflicts in my mind? As it all, because I was trying to have backup plans. I was trying to manage my parents. I was trying to manage this, and I was trying to manage through my past relationships. Because as it all, when you are say as a queer, you have problems with engaging with either of them, and there are past relationships that was haunting me.
Of
So
course.
finally, as I told, it took me some time. Once I was in a position in which I knew that it's time to take care of those things, I was able to manage that. I said, you don't have to worry about any of these people. You don't have to be the guardian of all these people or all their efforts or all their
Mm,
troubles. You need to be guardian for yourself, because every day you are faced with my mom is struggling, or my say my ex is doing well, or somehow I am not able to find out my own life or pathway. So it's about
right.
giving up. So nothing definite happened. It was just I was tired, or I would say it's not the right way to do it. Your past is keep on holding you. It's about giving up on the past,
It's about
and
giving up on the past.
giving up on the
Yeah.
past and not worrying about. It's not your responsibility to take care of everybody in your life in the way that I was trying to do. Like, no, my parents should be happy or satisfied, and they should be accepting and engaging, and I should be doing this many great things at work, or I should be earning this much money, or I should be in this type of job or relationship. So giving up the expectations, giving up
Right.
all the things that you want to do, more of a checklist. And then that's one thing, you need to be your own god, where you can decide how you want to treat yourself or decide your own fate.
And
And
speaking of being your own God, did you have any spiritual affiliations for yourself that you were praying to or seeking out?
so yeah, during as I wrote, when I was depressed, one of the thing I tell is you need to find somebody to blame, and that helped. So I blamed it on the fate. I blamed it on, okay, the god, when we do this, let him do this, and it was helpful. And I did regularly. Okay, I did pray. Okay, let me help me get over this. But as it all, I don't believe in God. I'm my own God, but it is good to blame somebody, and that helps. And I used him as, okay, I'm going to blame you for doing this. Now you provide me some support to help. And it also helps to talk. When you don't have anybody that you can trust to talk, you can talk to God as, say, an entity. And that would be my spiritual, what to say, connection or my belief.
Yeah. And so during this time too of the depression, and understanding that just maybe 2 years ago is when you had this moment of peace, were you still reaching back out and sharing information and support with the LGBT community at your med school back in India,
No,
or did that
sorry,
stop?
we never had a community. It was just individual people talking to me whenever they feel like, oh, I need somebody to talk to about this.
Okay.
So there was never a group or a community. It was just individual people who knew me, who were able to talk to me in the phone. And that's it. Since it was India, I used to be on call at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. my time, and there was never a group or a community. So that's when I learned so many problems from different regions. So different people having different issues, but they all had the same pattern, that they all want you to be different, and so they are forcing things on you, or they are abusing you because of those things. But I learned from all those pathways, and there was never a group. And that's when I said, okay, there has to be group, because there is more power in a group, and there's more power in exchanging ideas, and more power in knowing, okay, I know multiple people who are going through same things, so it's going to be okay. And that is what I felt it was missing, because they knew only me. Maybe if I connect them with another person who went through same things, they'll have different opinion on different how to say pathways to take. Okay, each one has its own, and from this I can pull one item and then build my own path. And that was the motivation why I said I need a group. And I kept asking, would you be willing to buy in a group? But people were not willing to be in a group because they
Why?
felt
Why? What was there a reason?
knowing associated with the group will out them. And they don't want to be. They said you also should not be publicly open to, because they know that I'm your friend, and that also made me lose a couple of friends. But I said it's okay, but I can at least help one other people,
Wow.
and you will come back later once you realize it's all it's a overthinking on your side.
Yeah. And so
So
when did this group formalize?
last month,
So that was the panel was the actual formalization of
formulation
it.
of the group, yes. Yeah, I've been talking to
Wow.
different people for the past year, and I've been trying to. And I actually respected some of the privacy things. People said, "Can you tell me your other gay friends or queer friends in med school?" I said, "I can't reveal them to you. I have to ask their permission." So it's good that you're maintaining their privacy, but do tell them or connect me by email and others. And still, it didn't happen. But I kept asking different people, and in one instance, I knew based on say how they behaved and how they were, or say their mannerism and others. I have openly asked, "I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that you may be LGBT."
Bold. Bold.
And he was taken by shock and then said yes, but nobody has ever asked me straight like that.
Wow.
And I said, well,
Whoa.
because the worst thing they can say is, oh, you're being cruel, or you're being discriminative, or you're being judgy about these things. But I wanted people, I need to form the network. But I found out now we are good friends. But I said, well, I would always ask people or find out. I ask, and it's up to them to say no or kick me. Why are you asking me stupid things? So I asked, and then that's how it started to form more of a group. And still, it is trying to form a group, because still people don't want to be revealed that they are part of the group.
Right.
So it took multiple calls and such, and finally, actually, the main catalyst happened because one of the student had identified he needs to do something because he is tired of all the harassment. So he met his own friends, and the group of friends started the same thing like I did when I was in med school, starting a magazine. So they started a magazine, a student magazine, in which they said, okay, let's host an event on the Pride Month. And that is how I came to know, okay, there is now a student group who wants to do a Pride Month. So I then contacted them. I said, let's not just do Pride Month, let's form a formal group. Let's bring in some people, sponsors, external people. Let's make a mission, agenda, and form a group. And still people were not that convinced. Oh, I don't want to be part of a group. I said, okay, it's not a group of LGBT, it's a group of all the allies. It's about everybody who wants to bring in a change about how to treat patients with LGBT, put in a clinical significance so that the clinical people can join in, and it do not feel like you are in a more of a segregated or discriminated group. So that's where
Brilliant.
the mission was, into how do I help physicians to treat LGBT patients in India. How do we come up with outreach to support your LGBT peers? How do you build your network for both professional and personal support? Finding out what type of opportunities available, mentorships available, and then how do you deal with patients? Because some of the incidents I've heard is, one of the student, not in my med school, it's from outside, one of the student actually reached out to another doctor for help, but he was beaten up because the doctor didn't believe that. He said, no, you should change, you can't be like this. And things happened because he couldn't go to the faculty in the med school because he will be known. So he went to an outside practitioner, and that happened. And he can't do anything about it. He can't complain. He can't raise any issues because police are not going to take action on this, and he can't show a proof. So that is why we need to do something to change. And I was actually very happy with the response I got from med school, because the faculty overwhelmingly supported it, the residents, students, everybody supported it. And it was just, there are still some fraction of people who don't support, who do sorts of harassment, and I want to see how we can bring about the change. And forming a group, bringing about these educational activities, presenting to them that it's okay, you don't have to be fitting to a label, you don't have to do this, and if somebody does this, we need to find a way. And currently I'm actually searching, I'm asking different people, how can a male student complain about harassment, because there are ways for female students to complain about harassment in India, but there is no recognition of male or transgender students to complain about harassment. And I'm asking the administration, do you have a rule for this? What happens if a teacher harasses or uses an abusive word? If it is a woman, they follow the procedure, but if it's a male or transgender, there is no procedure. What about it? So raising those questions, bringing about lobbying for such what to say rule changes or policy changes is also one of the focus. Because if you're able to change in one med school, and it's one of the prominent medical school in India, it's one of the top institute, and it's one of federally recognized institute, things spread. People follow the patterns, people follow the policies, and slowly we would bring in some change, at least from the physician community. Because when you're able to talk with your patients, when you're able to talk with your say fellows, people who are coming to support, you bring in about a change. Because you are at a position where you are respected, people listen to what you're saying, and they would say, oh, my doctor told me this, oh, it's okay, this is what my doctor said, and the word spreads. And currently the problem is many of the physicians who come on the TV, they propose more of conversion therapies, and all those things happen in India. They are not physicians, they're alternate medicine practitioners. They come on those televisions, they do this nighttime, oh, call me, I can help you with this, sign up for my program, and all those things they advertise. And nobody can do anything because they are outside of the medical network. Because if they're a registered physician, they would be reprimanded, but they're not registered physicians. And that is why people listen to the words of physicians. And that's why we want to target the physician group, so that they are able to help their peers as well as their patients, and they're able to spread the message.
And what has been the response thus far, and with especially the panel, but also with all the other work you are lobbying to create?
It's been very good, actually. As I told, I have contacted also different groups in my medical school. I said resident groups, trainee group, faculty group. They all had been very engaging, and they all said again said it is a problem with the laws and other things, but with respect to a more a human to human interaction, we are there to help and support students. We may not be able to change all the laws or policies, but we are there to help as other human beings. As like if you have a problem, you can come. And they also said let's have some of an anonymous network where students can voice their concerns, and we could provide them some support or help. And I still it's very difficult to get the management or others engaging in more of policy or other changes, because it is again controlled by the federal governments, and people don't want to be seen openly as, oh, you're supporting these type of things, you're going against all the religions. So again, it goes back to politics, elections, and others. But at least from a personal aspect, we do now have an avenue where students can reach out to other students, as well as say alumni network, who can talk to them. They can talk anonymously if they want, or they can have more of a video chat like this if they want. And that was the first goal of the network. So I do talk with many students, I like what they are sharing, and I'm trying to get more alumni who can volunteer to talk to them. And they don't have to be LGBT, they just have to listen to them. So those type of network is what I'm trying to build.
What is your greatest wish for this work that you're doing? Like, if you had a wish, what would that be?
Oh, I don't believe in wish, but wish, I thought I had all the wish. I think I have everything I wanted, actually, because I
Meaning
have
with your work that you're
no. That's what I'm
doing.
saying with my
Yeah.
work, because I have a good network of students who are supportive of their friends and peers, and I have a good network of alumni who are more than willing to say fund the initiative, donate, and then support in all ways possible to engage with this community. And we have experts and external people, say from the US, who are able to engage. Maybe one of the wish would be people in India who can talk to them, because one of the things they say is it would be nice if I can have somebody from India tell me what's going on. You are all in the US, you have the freedom, you're able to do. It would be
Mm.
nice if I can have somebody. So I did reach out to some of the organizations, but I don't know, maybe due to time, or people didn't want to be associated, they didn't want to publicly participate in the event. So I did contact many of the organizations who are working with HIV, who are working with transgender, but people were not willing to talk or discuss openly in India while they were in India. And that would be the one wish, if I can get some of them to talk without having to be afraid of it. And I did have an option of having them anonymously speak, but I said no, that is not a good role model, or that is not a good way of saying that. You have to still be behind screen or anonymous name. And that's why I said, okay, when you're ready to show your face and name, then please, that time you could join, because we need to give an impression that it's okay to be out, it's okay to be talking about it, and it's good to engage with your face and not with a screen name.
What a powerful powerful story and journey. My goodness, like if I'm listening to this podcast as a guest, excuse me, as an audience member, I am just literally impressed with your level of courage, impressed with your level of tenacity, and your ability to not settle for the status quo. What would you say to someone who is trying to figure out the next right step to take, especially if they are in circumstances, whether it's in India and a community that's not accepting of them? What would you say is the next right thing for them to do to feel a sense of acceptance?
If you're in India or in a community where it's all sort of discrimination, the first thing to do is get your career right, because that is what is going to give you the freedom of letting go people. Whatever is the career, if you're happy with your career, not just financially but emotionally, if you're happy with your career, you would be able to say, I don't care about other people. So the step is getting your career right. It could be even arts, science, or even mechanic, or say professional careers like being a lawyer or a physician. But you need to be happy that you are who you are, because there have been many physicians who have been unhappy because I really want to be a artist or really want to be a teacher, but I'm stuck here because that's what people told me. The first thing is getting to know that I'm happy with my career will bring you everything. And choosing the right career path or having the ability to change will give you the confidence and the ability to leverage whatever experience you have in your personal life.
If anybody's listening to this podcast and they are watching and they want to support you, is there any way that we can support you as a community, or any way that you need a support?
It's a very close group of students who are from the medical school, and I've been keeping the group very close to just our community, so that they're able to leverage on each other's experiences. The only support I would ask from the listeners would be to help their own communities or their own network of people. And maybe if I ask for, if you want to speak to my group of people, just accept my invitation and come give us a good talk.
Deevakar, I want to thank you so much for this time and for sharing so freely your experience. It is exactly everything I've wanted it to be. I know it's going to be a blessing to so many people who are trying to not only figure out who they are, but also that level of resilience and tenacity. Before I let you go, is there any social channels that you want to connect us to for you at all?
So I said I've been out of social network mainly because I felt people are always judging or other things. So I've been out of social networks. But you can always send me an email to my name. It's usually my first name dot last name at Outlook, and I always respond to emails. So always connect me through emails, and I'm always happy to share any questions or answers that you want from me. So it's going to be my first name dot last name at outlook.com.
All right. Listen, folks, you have heard this conversation here. I am deeply, deeply inspired, as I know you are. I'll have all of Devakar's information at the base of this podcast in the show notes. Again, for our audience here, you can learn more about me by visiting clayswilliams.com. And I'm on all of your favorite social media by the handle of at Plan A with Clay. That's at Plan A with Clay, folks. Remember that Clay is with a K. Thanks for listening. I look forward to seeing you in our very next episode of Plan A Conversations. Peace, guys.